jump off and get to work on stuff.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
See you.
Oh man. Let's see here. Live streaming on YouTube. Let's see. Done. Newell. Okay, Michael. Record. Michael, everyone, welcome to the update. Thanks for joining us. And sorry, I'm in my car, had some appointments to run to, but wanted to make sure we got this investor update done. So Michael, we've got some exciting news on Cleveland. We're closing the first of the three portions of the transaction today. So that's nice. Feels good to get one of them out of the way and closer to having this thing closed.
It's been a journey.
Seems like these things take forever. Last year, I mean, geez, it took forever to get that Cleveland deal closed. There's so many moving parts, and there's so much to do. Shout out to Jens and Jason and everyone on the team. This has been the most complicated deal we've ever done. And just to help people understand what we've been working with, these are portfolio deals. This isn't 103 unit apartment complex in Cleveland. This is multiple different buildings. Two of them we did not want to keep that did not fit our portfolio. Michael and I said, you know what, we don't want that renter demographic. Jason, Jens, Lyndon, they all agreed. And so 2 of the 9 buildings we decided we weren't going to buy. And we immediately sold those. And so we're closing on those today. They're already sold and under contract, going to be sold and closed on by this new buyer and it does fit his portfolio. So that'll be good for him, be good for us not to have to manage something that's not really in the exact area that we like, and it doesn't have the renter demographic that we like either. And Michael, I think that's the number one thing that has really caused our success in Cleveland is we bought in a location where the renter demographic has there's the demand for the units that we're remodeling, and they have the credit scores and the income, and it's really outperformed as far as the rent increases goes, outperformed all of our models.
One of the hardest things to do sometimes is to stay on focus when you're scaling, because as you scale, it's like being the hottest girl at the bar, so to speak. All of a sudden you're swarmed with all these opportunities you normally wouldn't have. And so people throw opportunities at us because they know now we're the biggest player around the second best hospital in the world. And those opportunities don't sometimes fit the portfolio, our portfolio, and the needs of ourselves and our investors. So sometimes like great investors, whether it's a Berkshire or anybody else, sometimes you'll go and you'll buy a company or companies and you'll trim off some of the fat or some of the things that just aren't really the right fit for that company or that portfolio in our case. And that's exactly what we did here. What we did do also, but what's a nice addition for the first time, which I don't think we'll probably do much again, but there's a tiny little retail building we bought right in the middle of everything. And now we'll have Peril Realty, our manager and partner, with access to all the different vendors and renters and everybody else right in the middle of everything. So really, now we have a presence right in the middle of all of it, which is really, really important and nice.
Yeah, with the huge amount of foot traffic, that's going to be great. Well, without further ado, we wanted to talk about everyone's favorite subject, cash flow and distributions. So Michael, we put out a video in February of 2021, and I realized we probably needed to talk about this a little bit more, make sure everyone's clear how cash flow and distributions work as far as our properties go. And so that's what we're talking about today. I think we've got quite a few people on, quite a few people that can't make it. So this is being recorded and that'll be put on YouTube. So the way our properties work, first of all, we don't send out cash flow for the first few months. If it's a heavy lift, it'll be more like 6 to 9 months, depending on vacancy and how many units we need to remodel. So that's the first thing that I want everyone to understand, is that when we buy a new property, we have insurance that we have to put down. We have utility money that we have to put deposits down on, or utilities we have to put deposits on. We have lots of different escrows, real estate taxes. And so there's a huge amount of money going out those first few months. And we also want to build up the most important thing, which is our rainy day fund, which is the cash reserves. Any business needs to have cash reserves, including real estate investments in apartment buildings. So we build up those cash reserves, and we start sending distributions out after the third month. Again, if it's a heavy lift, it'll be longer than that. But that's the first thing I wanted to touch on. And the second thing is the timing of the distribution. And so I want to remind people about that process. And we've had, this new CFO come on board, and we've had a few different distribution systems because of different property managers for each property. We are now having that CFO take over and have the same uniform system of distributions for every single property. And as far as timing goes, it'll be at the first of the month. And we're working on perfecting that, improving that always. So let's see, it's August 19th today. It's actually my daughter's birthday. She's 9. It's kind of crazy. But August 19th. So in about 11 days, we'll be done collecting rents for August. We'll also be done collecting all the bills for August. We will then, on about September 15th, receive all of the financial reporting and the books for the month of August from the property manager, from our on-site property manager. And we then will go over those books with our CFO, with Michael, who always takes a look at all the books, and his accountant or bookkeeper, excuse me. And then by the 1st of October is when that cash flow goes out for August. So we're always a month behind. And we do that to make sure that we're auditing those books. And that's how most of the property operators and investment operators operate their business. And our CFO took a look about a month ago, and we were trying to do things a little bit faster to get you guys money, in the month that we're collecting rents. And she said, you know what, Sam, no, let's go back to that system that you guys set up last year. Let's make sure that we're giving ourselves enough time to audit the books, to make sure rents and all the bills are in, and we give ourselves enough time to do it correctly every month. And I really appreciated that. So, Mike Ferry, our good friend Mike Ferry, Michael always talks about upgrading. And we upgraded it in a huge way, adding the CFO. And, we ran it by your accountant, our accountant. And I'm excited. I'm really excited to have things running more smooth. Not to say there won't be hiccups, but distributions have been something that, a number of us have been frustrated with, including myself. So we're really excited to have this CFO on board and having a better system that way. Michael, any thoughts on the distributions or the process there?
Well, the most important thing is to be accurate and to make sure it's consistent. And I think that it's pretty straightforward, pretty not self-explanatory, but it's been explained pretty thoroughly. Plus, you did put out that video last year that was very, very informative, straightforward, and analytic. So I would say, unless there's anything else, if people have questions, but you have to be accurate, and you have to have reserves, and you have to do things responsibly. And everybody, including me, including Sam, everybody wants to get paid faster. Everybody. However, we also want to make sure it's done accurately and responsibly. So sometimes it's better to readjust things, make sure it's done properly. So going forward, there aren't any more hiccups or aren't hiccups on anything, rather than keep, trying to speed up and satisfy ourselves and everybody else. And then put ourselves in a position that's not good for anybody. So it's really no more complicated than that.
Absolutely. And I think the main thing I wanted to touch on is we appreciate everyone's patience. There have been distributions that have gone out a few days late. Some people were getting them in the middle of the month because our payroll processing third-party company was taking forever. So we got a new one, got a new CFO. And so again, we're upgrading, improving constantly. We do appreciate your guys' patience with us. And Michael hit it right on the head. We want to be accurate and we want to do this the right way, and consistency is what we're shooting for. So with that said, any questions on distributions? Go ahead and unmute yourself if you have a question. So a few people I don't recognize on the call. I'm looking at the guest list. Well, there's no questions. That's all I have on distributions. We're getting ready to close Cleveland, Michael. We've got 300,000 left. Unfortunately, we had 2 investors back out last minute. 1 investor who did not close on the 1031 down leg that they had. So they backed out 500,000, and 1 investor was not accredited. Hal, that was your good friend. Great guy. I do appreciate, the referral, and he really wanted to end this deal. So we're going to try and figure out a way to get him in the next deal. It was couldn't work on this one, but great guy. I appreciate the referral, and everyone else sending referrals our way, and their friends and family. We appreciate you guys, and we're excited for this deal. Really excited to. I was telling Michael, I was telling one of these new investors, this is our 5th deal in Cleveland. The brain damage has been had. We've put in the work to put the systems together, and we're really excited for Fairmount 5 because we have everything streamlined. Everything's streamlined now. Everything's running like a well-oiled machine. We have 7 to 8 different crews working on remodels at all times, and I'm really excited to have Fairmount number 5, and we're already looking for Fairmount number 6. Any thoughts on that, Michael? Are you just ready to go, ready to close?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a little over a year and a half, and I think we should be proud of ourselves, all of us, that in a year and a half we've taken a sleepy little village, little sub-market that nobody was paying attention to, and now all of a sudden we have 500 doors right next to the second best hospital in the world that keeps growing, and new construction, everything else that's being renovated. It's a great thing. We're doing the same thing in Texas now. There's something coming up in the next couple weeks we're going to announce that will give us massive scale in a part of Texas besides El Paso, besides Dallas, that we're very excited about. So, the goal has always been, Sam and I and Lyndon, to wherever we go to get scale. We've mentioned that over and over and over again. There's a reason for that. It's not ego. It's to try to maximize, as every business person does, whether it's Warren Buffett or anybody else. When you have scale, you have control, you have options, you also have cost control, and you have, if you have a factory, when you're making a product, now you're having control over the product itself. So now when we go into these different cities with phenomenal locations, now we're able to dictate terms with contractors, we're able to dictate terms with tenants, we're able to get better deals from lenders. So everything just works better when you have scale. So it's been quite painful the last year and a half to take on these 40 to 50 different buildings. I want you to think about that for a moment. It's not just buying 4 or 5 buildings, it's 40 or 50 buildings in a eighth of a mile, Sam?
Yep.
From scratch. Coming out of nowhere. No one knew who we were. Lenders didn't, the brokers didn't. So all of a sudden these upstarts, burst into town, start buying everything in sight, but not in a haphazard way, in a very, very like a surgeon, very methodical, analytical way, never overpaid, negotiated hard.
We passed up quite a few deals in the neighborhood that were just too rich for our blood.
Exactly. And it's the old saying, I'd rather pay a fair price for a great property than a great price for a fair property. And so that's what we try to do every single time. So I just couldn't be happier and more proud of what we've created there and what's going to be coming up next. Because now the hard work has been done.
Yep, I'm excited. We have almost 500 doors in Cleveland, almost 500 doors in El Paso. Texas as a whole, we're almost at 1,000 doors in the state of Texas. So that's pretty exciting. And one thing I wanted to end on is just a financial thought. So I'm sitting in my truck right now. I've got a doctor's appointment. I'm actually sitting outside their office doing this call. And I put zero down on this truck. You know, I camp and fish a lot. I have 2 kids, so I needed a big back seat, taking them to school every day. But Michael, why would it be foolish to pay cash for a car? And of course, there's people in a position to do it that are worth, as you said in the past, 30 million plus. They have the cash flow where it doesn't matter. But for your average Joe, let's say I'm trying to go buy a car for $50,000. Why would I not save up that $50,000 and pay cash for a car? And why is it so much better to invest that cash and never pay that car off?
It's the same reason why. Well, okay, so watch this. So let's start with this. You never ever buy depreciating assets. Let's start with that.
Thank you.
Ever.
Never put cash down on depreciating assets.
Don't even buy them. Period. Until you have money to burn. That's why I say, unless you're worth 20, 30, $50 million, you have, forget saying anybody else. I have no business unless I have that kind of net worth or anybody else to buy depreciating assets. Now, if you're at a point in your life where you can start buying, 100 Rolex watches, buying, a lot of art, great, good for you. But again, they don't do anything. They sit on your wrist or they sit on the wall. That's wonderful. And if you earn the right to do that,
no cash flow,
no depreciation, no scale, no control, no leverage. What on earth are you thinking? Now, the best example of this is a guy that was sitting in our car 3 years ago. We were shopping Boise, Idaho, and Salt Lake City. David, will you unmute yourself and if you can, if you're comfortable, I'm kind of calling you out, but you remember the conversation we had 3 years ago when you told me you had your $100,000 Porsche and how you've changed your whole mindset, which I applaud you for because it was hard for you.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for pointing that out and for bringing that to my attention. So I had I will say that Porsche, I bought it for like $100,000. It was all cash. I wired the money. And I think I had a call with you and you were like, sell the damn Porsche. And I was like, fine. So I sold it. And I will say that vehicle appreciated by like, $30,000, $40,000, 30-40%, because a lot of those rare cars did. But my investment in these properties have appreciated by 2x. So that 100,000 turned into 200,000. I also had $100,000 in depreciation against my income. And I have a building that's not going anywhere. I have no repairs that I have to worry about. It's totally different. It's a totally different mindset.
Well, first of all, congratulations to you at such
And
a young age.
the Porsche.
Go ahead, Sam.
Go.
I think his service, I think what he's going to say is the Porsche can be pretty easily replaced. And, I did replace it with another Porsche, but it's fully financed and I have monthly payments and my investments through you guys are paying for the monthly payments for my GT3, which is even nicer than my 50th anniversary.
And now you've got a GT3, right?
Yeah.
Which is a much superior car, an incredible car, one of the greatest supercars around. You also have cash flow, you have depreciation, you have scale, you have leverage and control. Those are all the things you couldn't have. It's like sitting with a bar of gold. People, I love the gold bugs because they say, I have a bar of gold. Yeah, just want to stare at the gold all day. It's great, but it doesn't give you anything. So congratulations at such a young age that you would make such a paradigm shift. Huge. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to point out, the way I look at it, David, is your Porsche wasn't cash flowing. You were paying insurance for your Porsche. You were paying for gas and maintenance. And yes, it went up in value. That's fantastic. But also leverage. If I can borrow the bank's money at 4-5% and make 17, 18% per year, I'm ahead of the game by 14%, 15%. That's amazing. That's what leverage does. And that's why, I don't know if you guys follow me on TikTok. I did this TikTok that said Gordon Ramsay's an idiot. If you guys, or not Gordon Ramsay, Dave Ramsey. I like Gordon Ramsay. Dave Ramsey tells everyone to pay cash for everything. And if you want to stay poor but without any debt, that's great. But if you want to be an investor and grow wealthy, you use leverage the right way, the right debt, the right way. There is such thing as good debt. And just as you pointed out, David and Michael, we have about $170 million worth of properties right now. Those all have mortgages, all around 3-4%, and our average total gain every year is about 18%. So we're using the bank's money to make insane amounts of money. And there's nothing else you can do that on safely with the amount of low risk that we have. And so, David, I was having this conversation with someone else, and I use you as an example all the time, just as Michael just did. You know, you can pay cash for a car, but take that $100,000, invest it, and get a payment on a car, and let the investment pay for your car. And I think that's huge. And that's one thing that I was actually talking to my neighbor. He was going to go pay cash for a truck, and he has no investments. And I said, what the hell are you doing? You invest your money, let it sit there and grow. Because when the truck is worth zero, when you've run that truck into the ground, he's going to pay $50,000 for a work truck. When you run that truck into the ground and it's worth nothing, your real estate investment will still be growing at 15% plus a year.
So I think,
and that's the difference.
Sam, that's a great point. I think the challenge some of my friends are having with this is they're not accredited and they can't invest in a lot of these, multifamily syndications. Yes, they can buy, properties, but we're all fortunate enough to be accredited investors. And there's no excuse for us to not go all in with this.
That's where the words business maturity, business maturity and discipline come into mind. All you do is, if you're not accredited yet, so what if you have to wait a year or two to build up your cash reserves or whatever else you need? If you can't be disciplined enough to wait a year or two to get your act together, instead you act like a petulant child and go out and buy a stupid toy, then you don't deserve what the wealth that you should be getting. See, you at a very young age chose discipline and business maturity. And that's why you're now sitting in a $200,000 supercar that you don't even own. Thank God you lease it because the buildings pay for it. That is called discipline and business maturity. The world is your oyster.
Hey, David, it's a really good point. Michael as well. You have to be mature and disciplined. So I lived in flips. I've almost always lived in flips. So my first flip I bought while I was in college, lived in it, house hacked it, moved into a duplex, lived in it, house hacked it, remodeled it myself, moved into another flip. So it takes time. That I started that in 2010. I was not accredited when I started. There are ways to get accredited. And I built up my portfolio to where I had 5-6 properties, all with a bunch of equity. And so it may take some of us longer. If they don't earn $200,000 a year, it may take you longer, but there's still investments out there. There's still things you can invest in rather than a depreciating asset in a car or, a lavish house. That's my point is, if you do what David does, most people won't do that. They won't invest 30-40% of their income. Most people won't do it like me. They won't live in a flip. They won't live in a duplex. And they want to live in a really nice house. Well, I was in my 20s. I'm still in my 30s. I don't need to live in an amazing house yet. I'll make that sacrifice. So I think the key word today that we talked about with distributions was consistency and accuracy. I think the key words for this conversation is discipline and business maturity and just maturity in general.
And I'll add on to that. I think it's delayed gratification. People want everything right now. And it's like, you didn't earn it. You didn't earn it. Be smart with your money. Like, we work so hard to make money. We sacrifice so much and then we blow it. Well, I don't, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, it is immaturity and a level, but it's more so like just delay your gratification.
And guess what, David? When let's say Phoenix market goes bust and you're struggling to sell as many houses you sell, you've got cash flow coming in. And in the next 3-4 years, you're going to have an insane amount of cash flow coming in. And that's truly recession proof. And that's what a mature person does. They invest so that they can not be losing their mind when the market changes a little bit and not be scared. So love it. Thanks, guys. That's all I've got for today. I've got to run. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'll post this to YouTube. Thought it was a great conversation. Michael, thanks for your input.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Sam.
And
Thanks,
I
everybody.
just want to add one quick thing. I just finished a book called The Wealthy Gardener, and it's about the mindset of building wealth. So everything that you guys are talking about, put into story form, and
cool.
I highly recommend it.
What was it called?
The Wealthy Gardener.
The Wealthy Gardener. Have
It's a
you
really
read
good
The
book.
Richest Man in Babylon?
I have.
That's a good one too. Okay, The Wealthy Gardener. Buy it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
All
Paul.
right. Take it easy.
Thanks.
See you guys. Have a good day.